Welcome to both of you. Andrew, let me begin with you. You draw particular attention to the sanctions now put on Russia's central bank. Why do you think they will be so telling here, and how will they affect the average Russian?
These are really a tremendous step in terms of the Western response and the seriousness that is being shown here to the threat that Putin has unleashed on the world and on Ukraine itself. The fact is, the Russian central bank has significant foreign currency reserves, but now with Western sanctions from the United States, from the European Union, the substantial standings or amount of money that it has in dollars and in euros, it's not going to be able to spend that. So that means it's going to be very difficult for the central bank to support the ruble. We could be looking at bank runs and real significant economic effects in the days and weeks to come.
Does this effectively mean, Andrew, and I'll turn to you, Chris, in just a moment, that Russia's so-called rainy day fund, made up of those foreign currency reserves, is untappable?
It's starting to look like a significant chunk of that rainy day fund is under threat. Right now, it seems that Russia has about 20% of that rainy day fund in dollars, about 33% in euros, and it's going to be very difficult to try to find a way to use that. That's going to put the Russian economy under serious strain.
Chris, you understand Putin. You wrote the book on Putinomics. How susceptible do you think he and his inner circle, including the Russian oligarchs and elites, are to this kind of economic pressure? They must have known. Putin, if nothing, is not crafty. He must have known roughly what these sanctions were going to be even before he launched this invasion.
Well, I think the Russian leadership was expecting some sanctions, but to be honest, they're surprised by the severity of the sanctions that have been imposed this morning by the U.S. and the EU. They weren't expecting sanctions to be this tough. And in fact, the Russian government has spent the past decade doing a program of what it calls sanction proofing its economy. And the central feature of this sanctions proofing was building up vast foreign exchange reserves. And they found out this morning, much to their surprise, that none of this worked. And their sanction proof reserves are, in fact, very easily sanctionable by the US Treasury. So I think they're in a state of shock right now. The domestic blowback is going to be substantial. But the one thing that Putin still has going for him is that if you're a Russian who's unhappy with the situation at home, you have no mechanism for making your voice heard, because taking to the streets is dangerous. Raising your voice on social media could end up with you in prison or facing legal charges. And so there's no mechanism for Russians to express their discontent with the economic situation, even though it's clear that the economy is going to be far worse than anyone expected.
But let me ask you this. I don't disagree with anything you just said. I think it's incredibly courageous of the individuals who have taken to the streets or maybe taken to social media to voice dissent over this. But if the life of the real people of Russia deteriorates as a result of these sanctions, what, Chris, is the possibility that the ruling elites around this autocrat, and all autocrats one way or another depend on the support of military, national security, intelligence, moneyed people around him or her, what are the odds that that coalition begins to crack?
It does seem like that coalition is starting to crack. And I think you're right to think of the question as not what does the average Russian think, but what does the elite around Putin think? In addition to the economic side, there's also the military side, which is that the first week of war has been an absolute shambles for Russia. They've clearly bungled the military operation, which doesn't mean they can't resuscitate it. And we've seen more firepower this morning used against key Ukrainian cities. But the fact that the war is going so badly for Russia is also an embarrassment for Putin and challenges his support among the security services, who he needs to keep on his side.